Okay. So there's a famous quote by Boyd, which I think really sums it up the best, ironically. I'm actually surprised, besides for creating the strategy, um, that he actually had the best line to describe the situation as it relates to trading as well. He says, the best way to succeed is to revel in ambiguity. The best way to succeed is to revel in ambiguity. To always prepare for something changing at any moment, for always being able to feel at home in that mentality. You see, it was according to Boyd that ambiguity and uncertainty surrounds us, while the randomness of the outside world plays a large role in that uncertainty. John Boyd says that he actually says that our inability to properly make sense of our changing reality is the bigger hindrance. Is the bigger hindrance. When our circumstances change, we as traders often fail to shift our perspective and instead continue to try to see the world as we feel it should be. The market will never be a world in which it should be. You have to accept the market does whatever the heck the market wants, regardless of your feelings. We're going to tell you how to do it better. For some, what I just did on the OODA loop clicked in, but it's good to understand it from several aspects, because even if you got 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70% of the puzzle, I'm going to start filling in more pieces of the puzzle. We're going to build on, we're building up here, right? Boyd said we need to shift our existing mental concepts, or what he likes to call mental models, in order to deal with the new reality. Trading is about new realities constantly presenting themselves to you. Some people have the reality that they do step A, they do step B, they sit back, the money goes up, boom, that's it. Some people think that subconsciously, even if you could say, no, that's silly, Mark. Some of you even saying that to me right now are thinking that subconsciously. Well, how would I know? I don't know, but I could tell you on the path to getting rid of it if you have it. Mental models or paradigms are simply a way of looking at and understanding the world. They create our expectations for how the world works. They are sometimes culturally relative and can be rooted in tradition, heritage, even your genetics. Some of you are going to be faster, better, smarter. Some of you had the phenomenally strict father growing up, told you always to do things. Who knows? Maybe, maybe you didn't have the father in the first place and you never knew him. Maybe. That shaped a lot of how you think today, whether you realize it, admit it, or not. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to tell you the proper psychology of becoming consistently profitable and how you need to mold into it. And again, for some of you, it's going to require a harder mold. For some of you, you're already molded into that person. It's simple. I do not know. This strategy is about you walking this journey with us. Boyd was more interested in using this OODA loop as an organizing principle for a grand strategy. He tended to focus on these more abstract types of mental models. While in several aspects of life, paradigms do work and match up with reality most of the time, sometimes they don't. And in the market, there is no other situation that I have seen in my entire life. Stars 200 billion light years from Earth We don't even know if they exist today, and we're just seeing the dying light of it. We have no idea. It's constantly changing. That is more predictable than the market change. I have never seen more chaotic flux in any paradigm that I have ever seen in my entire life that resembles the paradigm shifts of the stock market. What I'm here to do is to help you learn that, accept that, and actually apply it to change your life. Someone runs a red light or kisses us in greeting instead of shaking our hand. How many people go through that situation where you go over, you kiss somebody on the cheek, and like they don't know if it's a handshake, it's at that weird, awkward moment. And then sometimes the person will give you a kiss on the cheek. How many people have been through that? I have. It's like, oh, it's nice to see you. Right? Amy, I'm a hugger. There you go. We're actually, when that happens, we are Marilyn. Sometimes John, because John is obviously Johnny Blazes with the mafia, so it's a kiss on two cheeks and the two hands. Like, yeah, see, called it. Yeah, my Greek friends. I'm Greek. We kiss exactly. It's a cultural thing. That actually, believe it or not, throws us off our game. If an archaeologist were to uncover evidence that humans rode around on dinosaurs, previous theories on Earth's history would be thrown into disarray. There are three philosophical and scientific principles to show that trying to understand a randomly changing universe with pre existing mental models only results in confusion, ambiguity, and more uncertainty. Understanding the basics of these principles helps to show how uncertainty and ambiguity are not just errors in human understanding or logic, but are truly built into the framework of our entire universe, both the worlds outside and inside ourselves. Those three principles are known as Gödel's proof, Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, and the second law of thermodynamics. However, as our observations about the world become more and more precise and subtle, a second principle kicks in, which limits our ability to observe reality correctly, and that is, of course, Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. After I explain this to you, I'm going to then go through the OODA loop again, and it's going to mean something different to you. So Heisenberg's uncertainty principle in a nutshell, it shows that we cannot simultaneously fix or determine the velocity and position of a particle or body. We can either measure coordinates or movements of those particles, but not both. Applying this principle is understanding the world around us. Boyd actually inferred this to, as we get more precise observations about a particular domain, we're likely to experience more uncertainty about another. Hence, there is a limitation in our ability to observe reality with precision. So we must build a framework around us that allows us to do this. Now, right, so there's a dude who wrote a book about Boyd, a man named Grant Hammond. And he says it's a state of mind, a learning of the oneness of things, an appreciation for fundamental insights, known in Eastern philosophy and religion as simply the way or Tao. For Boyd, the way is not an end, but a process, a journey, the connections, the insights that flow from examining the world in different ways, from different perspectives, from routinely examining the opposite proposition. What were important. The key is mental agility. That is why it is easier for me that I have seen to have this absorbed by somebody in their 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, as opposed to a kid who's 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. So how do we overcome this uncertainty or this mental entropy? Most people out there, when it comes to the observe part, and I just want to keep quoting John Boyd here, and then I'm gonna watch. John Boyd said, if we don't communicate with the outside world to gain information for knowledge and understanding, we die out to become a non-discerning and uninteresting part of that world. So as you guys know, the first step in the OODA loop is observe. This is the step that allows us to overcome the second law of thermodynamics. By observing and taking into account new information about our changing environment, our minds become an open system rather than a closed one. I'm literally psychologically flipping your head into closed information, meaning here's strategy A, B, C. I'm just going to do it. It's structured. I'm ready to go, into a more of an open where I am welcome to gain information. By accepting this fact right now, you are opening up your mind, in which a lot of you had a closed mind coming into this. Subconsciously, you want to have an open mind. If you can accept that by observing and taking into account new information about a market change can affect your next trade, you are going to be thinking about the market in a way that you never have before. From a day trader standpoint, to effectively observe, you need to have good situational awareness. Condition yellow, as John Boyd described, is a relaxed alert. This is what you need to be in, a relaxed alert. So when you guys are wondering, Mark, why do you try to stop 5 minutes before the market from talking? I want to relax you. I'm trying to put you in this condition yellow situation as John Boyd describes. There's no specific threat situation, but you have your head up and eyes open. You're taking into your surroundings in a relaxed but alert manner. You're looking at your charts. You start keying in on where all the opportunities are within the market. Is this strong? If something happens, if somebody, breaks into a quiet park, guns blazing, stuff like that can happen in the market psychologically with stock movements just suddenly dropping, popping. It could happen. Given the people around you, the ones over and be on the lookout for behavior that doesn't seem normal. Normal will depend on the situation and environment. Having adequate mental models will be important in determining just simple baseline behavior. So just because someone is acting weird or a stock is acting weird doesn't necessarily mean they're a threat. Just keep them on the radar. I mean, just like, for example, I know a lot of you are business owners. How many are proud business owners and are running either another job or another business while you do this? Many traders. I am. I'm a broadcaster. So that is another business. So let's say you're running a successful business. Observation will require you to keep track of not just your gross revenue, expenses, and profit, but also larger trends that may or may not affect your bottom line. For example, maybe you're an accountant. You should obviously have a depth of knowledge about accounting. You also need to know about web hosting, net neutrality, more technical issues that ultimately affect how your online business aspect operates. In his presentations with pilots and U.S. military Air Force pilots, John Boyd found two problems in the observation phase. I have fixed these two problems in my humble opinion. He says we often observe imperfect or incomplete information, he says. And he says we can also be inundated with so much information that separating the signal from the noise becomes difficult. By focusing on few names, I remove on the so much information part. I try to narrow down. That's why I don't try to vomit 10 names at you. I will show you on a pre-market tweet every day what I'm initially focusing on. And yes, situations change throughout the day where certain things paid to be focused on and certain things didn't pay to, you know, have time wasted focusing in on. I try to reduce that information for you, whether I'm looking up all the names in the morning to get these few names, the type of work that goes behind it. Okay. So, how do we develop judgment? How do we develop judgment during this phase that can ultimately help us? How do we do this? We do this by becoming humble, hardworking servants of the Orient part of the loop. And this to me is actually the most important part of the OODA loop, but one that, you know, many of you might have overlooked. You know what Boyd called this step of the OODA loop? He called it Schwerpunkt. It's a German word for blitzkrieg, or the focal point of his entire loop. The reason Orient is the Schwerpunkt of the OODA loop is because where our mental models exist, and it is our mental models that shape how everything in the OODA loop works. Orientation shapes the way we interact with the market environment in front of us. It shapes the way we observe, the way we decide, the way we act. In this sense, the orientation of shapes the character of present OODA loops, while the present loop shapes the character of future orientation, if you want to think of it in that aspect. And again, some of you nerds in the room will be like, oh, I get it now. And some of you will be like, what? That's okay. That's the whole point of explaining it in 1,500 different ways. I'm trying to resonate with 100% of you. That is my goal, to resonate this with 100% of you. Okay. So how do you as a trader orient yourself in a rapidly changing environment? You have to constantly break apart your old paradigms, your old structures, and put the pieces back together to create a new perspective that better matches your current strengths and weaknesses as a trader. Listen on, we're going to give you a solution for that too. Boyd actually called this process destructive deduction. And when we do this, we analyze and pull apart our mental concepts into discrete parts. And once we have these elements of these parts, we can start the process of what he calls creative induction. So there's the destructive deduction and creative induction. And using these old fragments to form new mental concepts of your trade that are going to more closely align with what we observed as a trader is actually really happening around us. Now, I know you guys are probably like, Mark, get to the strategies. I want to see the strategies. If you're thinking that, start this whole OODA loop thing. I want you to watch this video 100 times if that's what you're thinking right now. Because once I actually show you what you're good at and show you the strategies that have a phenomenally high chance of being good for you, this is what's going to change your trading. God, I wish I did that. My only regret is not doing, as I say, my biggest regret of this course is not doing this earlier in my career. Honestly, I just didn't know better. I wish I did this 12 years ago. For just even for myself, I wish I approached trading like this. So imagine that you're on a ski slope with other skiers, that you're in Florida on a motorboat, maybe even water skis. Imagine you're riding a bike. Imagine you're a parent taking your child to a department store and you notice that he's fascinated with tractors or tanks like my son. Now imagine that you pull the skis off, but you're still on the ski slope. Imagine the motor of your boat just pops off as you were motorboating. Imagine that you're no longer in Florida. And the bicycle, the handlebar was removed. Finally, you take off the rubber treads on the tractor or tank you just bought for your kid, and it just leaves a bunch of separate pieces. I challenge you to imagine what emerges when you put these particular parts together. Skis, an outboard motor, handlebars, and rubber treads. Did you figure out what that puts together? Skis, a motor, handlebars, and rubber treads. Imagine you deconstructed all these things and you put it together. What did you get? That's good, Mark. A snowmobile. Good job. You get a snowmobile. Orienting in this nutshell is the ability to make figurative mental snowmobiles on the fly in the face of uncertain moves in the market. The ability to orient effectively is what separated the winners from the losers in any conflict. A loser is someone who cannot build these snowmobiles when facing uncertainty and unpredictable change, whereas a winner is someone who can build snowmobiles and employ them in an appropriate fashion when facing market uncertainty or changes. So, as Boyd said here, the deductive destruction and creative induction of mental models isn't a one time event. It's a continual process. And as soon as you create that new mental concept, it will quickly become outdated as the environment around you changes. What I want you to do, oh God, I was supposed to give homework at the end, but I don't want to forget it. This is a dynamic course. This is a dynamic course. You're going to be fitting into, most of you will find something you do well. Most of you. It may or may not even be with what I'm doing. With the sheer size of this room and class, there'll be people who are like, Mark, I found this strategy I was doing a while ago and it works best for me. And I'll be like, okay. Boyd left us some ideas. He said, build a robust toolbox of mental models. The more mental models you have at your disposal, the more you have to work within creating new ones. So these strategies that I give you will be toolboxes and tools to build upon. Market movement, news names, volume. These are all tools that make you and build you the best thing possible. John Boyd said something great. He said, the Air Force has got a doctrine. The Army's got a doctrine. The Navy's got a doctrine. Everybody's got a doctrine. But if you read my work, doctrine doesn't appear in there even once. Why did he say that? He said that because you can't find it. You know why I don't have it in there? Because it's doctrine on day one, and every day after it becomes dogma. That's why. Whatever strategy that you cannot apply to a dynamic market, I don't care whose strategy it is. I don't care if it's a combination, a confluence of technical analysis, which I'll try to mention later if time permits. The purpose of this is to make you stronger minded because the market always changes. And if you try to structure yourself while the market changes, that's it. Your whole structure is done. It's like moving into a city to start a business, one of those up and coming cities, and then all of a sudden nobody moves in there, all the business moves out, and the town dies. And you're still sitting there operating a business. That, I think, is the best way I could describe it. You also see what's called the man with the hammer syndrome. Has anybody ever heard of man with a hammer syndrome? It's folks who start applying every single situation in life without considering other factors. Everything looks like a nail. That is right. That is right. That's the man with the hammer syndrome. People who are fans of evolutionary psychology are prone to this. To them, all human behavior can be explained by it. Why are men more jealous than women? Because in primitive times, they couldn't know if they were really the father of the baby or not. Then that's not, I did not come up with that theory either. While our evolved psychology certainly plays a big role in our trading behavior, other factors are also involved in why we do what we do. So it's always good to familiarize yourself with as many situations as possible, whether the market is going up, whether it's going down, really just wherever it's going. Because if you don't have the ability to really take all of this and meld it together, you want consistent profitability. The market always changes. I have to teach you to change too. It's not the sexiest thing in the world for some people. So many people out there are so cemented in their own ways that if they refuse to break out, the world is just going to leave them behind. You know what happens? You know what happens? It's like building a monument of a situation, of something that happened. It's a beautiful thing to look at. Eventually, just becomes a statue that people just walk by, don't even pay attention to. It's reminiscences of the past. So what I'm trying to do is basically turn you into the person that can destroy and create a mental model. Your fluency in destroying and creating these mental models will only come with practice. So start doing it as much as you can. The best way legally, I would only be able to tell you to paper trade. Legally, I could tell you what I would like to do in this situation. I can't tell you what to do. But somebody like me personally would look to take like 100 share positions or very small positions and see how it works live and just live test it with the lightest size possible. If you didn't even want to waste that money or spend that money, it's not wasted because you learn a lot from it. It's actually the best way to invest in creating these mental models. You could also just go simply on a demo account, but take it very seriously. And you could just literally look at a trade, track it, and literally create mental models of how you're going to trade it. The strategies that are going to proceed this sector of our education today is going to show you the strategies in which you can build mental models behind. What you'll notice is that a lot of these models and strategy, although pretty as exact as you could be, exist and create my rules. And it's worked well for many. Even though I could do that, I need to know what you are good at. You need to know what you're good at. So I'm going to help you build these mental models by understanding the algorithmic strategies in which we deploy here at the Newsbeat Room. And then what you're going to do is you'll be able to dissect these models, much like putting together the snowmobile in which we just talked about. When you do a strategy, it's important, and this will be more of a this will be more of this will be more of a self-discovery process. You'll be able to dissect it. What I'm going to show you with my algorithmic strategies is a way to dissect it. And once you know what it looks like on the inside, you would be able to form something yourself and put together something around it that could be phenomenal for you. And I'm going to tell you right now what's going to come out of this. You traders are actually going to be coming out with your own consistently profitable strategies. You're going to be like, guys, I'm able to do this. Guys, you're going to do exactly what I'm doing. Because you're going to back test all these pieces together and you're going to say, holy moly, or you're going to forward test it with some live shares. You're going to record your results and record the situation. You're going to be like, holy moly, this is incredible. Orientation isn't just a state you're in, it's a process. You are always orienting at every time. How many people, just out of curiosity, like or don't like when I'm inside a trade and I just start talking about it? I'm curious. Some people don't. Maybe what I'm actually doing, like it. All right. What I'm actually doing for you guys is I'm actually taking you through my OODA loop so you know the proper way to think. How does one explain that while in a trade, you shouldn't be looking at your charts or your P&L? You should be looking at what the market is doing, what the sector is doing. That's what I'm doing for you. I'm actually trying to plug in the holes of what I do. It may or may not be good for you every step of the way, but I guarantee you there are certain parts of my OODA loop which are far superior to yours. There are parts of your OODA loop which are far superior to mine. I was just able to identify what is superior for me. You know, they told me that psychology wasn't the sexiest topic in the world. And they're right. But if it isn't the sexiest topic in the world, I can guarantee beyond any reasonable doubt that what you're going to do today, and if you follow these steps, will put you on the highest chance that I have discovered humanly possible to be consistently successful and successfully consistent with consistently psychological fortitude happening as humanly possible. Once you understand that trades are being now delved into deeper, it's funny what you could see with an electron microscope. It's funny what you can see as you zoom in. You know, it's funny. We could see something 200 billion light years away. Does anybody want to do the math and multiply that number by 186,000 to see how 186,000 miles a second, but for 200 billion years? We could see that, but we can barely see something that's right in front of our face. Do you know that? Don't you find that funny? We have more information about what is 200 billion light years away than we do to an extent of what is directly in front of us, like looking at your hand. Most scientific research to this point has shown that it gets to a stage when you start going into the quantum mechanical level that says shapes will bend and twist depending on how you think about them. So if you think something, I'm not going to go into quarks and all these other nerd terms, but basically, if you're able to just see on the smallest level and you think the thing is curved, it will curve. And if you think it's straight, it will look straight. It will literally bend with your own mind. That scientific research is everywhere. The point of me actually telling you this is when I do that OODA loop for you guys, I am literally psychologically dissecting an OODA loop in real time. Everybody talks about you buy here, you sell here, you stop here. What happens in between those trades? That's the most important part. How did it go up? How did it go down? Those are the most important aspects of a trade. Yet nobody talks about them. Well, you already had you're risking $1. You already know what you're risking. Like, that doesn't always work. You're trying to make $2. That doesn't always work. You have to look at what's happening between you making the $2 or losing the dollar. That is critical to your success. So when I talk through the room from now on, this course is actually going to help you a lot in the room because you're going to see my OODA loop in effect. First, you see me observe. How do I handle it, guys? I'm looking. If this stock goes down here, I'm thinking of buying it. Do I ever tell you, guys, 100%, if this hits 59.63, I'm buying it there? No, of course not, because you're not going to take away my ability to orient. Now I'm looking at it. I'm looking at it. All right, guys, I'm putting in a bid here for Shopify calls at 570. You know what happened? And if you're not in the room, I just want to explain to you what happened too. If you were in the room, you saw it on Friday, just real quick with Shopify, just a real chart thing. I'm going to take it on the 5-minute chart right here. And this was Friday's Shopify. What happened is, as you started flushing through here to 305 and a quarter, I'm like, Shopify is at or near a bottom. I put in a bid to buy $305 calls for this week, whatever, not important. I put in a bid to buy the stock if it headed lower than this. It popped right away, went from 305 and a quarter to 307.13 after I called the bottom. I still did not buy it. It still was not worth it for me to chase. So many people would see that move right there and say, I want to chase. And the sad thing is they probably, if they had a tight stop, probably got stopped out when it even headed lower. So I canceled my 570 bid, put in a 550 bid. It filled me on the flush right here, went barely down further for a Shopify, about $1.60, and then rallied for the entire day with me saying that it bottomed and where I bought it. So I literally ended up buying those options at 550 when over here I wanted to pay 570. And this happened, and what happened? Just like my ex-wife in a shopping mall with a credit card changed her mind. But right over here, I changed my mind. I said, I don't want to pay 570 for this anymore, because if it comes back down again to my level of where I wanted to buy it, it's going to flush further. So using that information, I'm going to lower my bid to 550. Bang, got filled 550, wrote it up, still holding into this week. Hit $310.07. What we're going to do is we're going to take a 15-minute, 18-minute break till 11 o'clock. I can answer, I'm just going to quickly answer some questions. And if you have any questions about this, it's okay if you don't. There's a lot more going on. I'll quickly answer it, but we're taking a break till 11:15 a.m. I guess I'm answering questions. It's not a full break, but you get the picture. Mm-hmm. It continues while you're in the name because new information keeps coming out. Now, I'll give you an example. Let's say on Shopify, for some reason, I just saw the spiders and the triple Qs plummeting here. What I'll do at that point is I'll probably just throw Shopify for a loss and say, I don't know what the hell this is. Did we go to war with someone? What on earth happened? Like, if I saw the market plummeting, some policy come out, something horrible in the world come out. New tariffs, new this, new that. Market goes up, market goes down. Who knows? Maybe I don't know what's happening then. I'll throw it away for a loss. So yeah, there are situations where holding and selling is always the best move. I am trying to help you find the answer to that situation with very good consistency. Is there any info on the OODA loop we should read, study, or is the course all we need to focus on, at least for now? I can't tell you to not try to find the information elsewhere if you want. I would argue the course is all you need for now. Okay. Is the Bandits class mostly for scalping? No. The strategies are mostly for scalping, except for the new strategy, which is could be scalping or swinging. So you could do swing. We're going to have a longer term thing strategy revealed later today. Okay. There you go. Okay. Small break. 11 o'clock. I'll answer Andrew, and then I'll come back. For example, all right. We're going to go through the whole OODA loop before I can answer that question, Andrew. Let's go through the entire loop and the entire process, and it'll be more productive. Okay, we'll be back shortly.